What's up, girl? What's up, girl? So, today's topic is about courage and resilience versus quitting, versus giving up. And so, my name is Coach Indy, and it's Sunday, so I'm doing a spiritual topic, but I am a health and fitness coach, nutrition coach, online, intuitive eating coach, emotional eating coach, all of the things. And so I typically help plus size moms, plus size nurses, plus size doctors be able to lose 20 pounds in 60 days without having to count carbs or cut carbs. So if you want to know more about that, then give me a hashtag thickfitsecrets down in the comments or in my DMs, and I'll let you know more. But yeah, today's topic is a spiritual one because it's Sunday. And so so last week I did a spiritual topic on. So today's topic is about. Last week's topic that was spiritual was about King Hezekiah. And so let me go ahead and share this link really quick to my Diamond Nation Fitness people, my clients, so that they have it, because they are the ones who requested that I try to do this every Sunday, and I said I would. Here is the link. Boom. There we go. So, yeah, I feel like resilience versus quitting is super, super, super applicable to all aspects and areas of life, whether that be fitness, whether that be just going through a hard time. Like, resilience is like super important, right? And you don't want to be known as a quitter. Like, you don't want to go down. You don't want to die and be a quitter, whether that's spiritually or fitness or nutrition. That's not how you want to be remembered. So, and you want to be able to endure all that life has to throw your way, like regardless, no matter what. So if you are watching this live, then give me a hashtag live. If you are watching while recording, and if you are watching this on the replay at another time other than while I'm recording live, then give me a hashtag replay. And so the very first part of it is Job chapter 1, verse 1 through 22, if you so choose to like follow along. And so it honestly starts out with like kind of telling how Job is like, he's super rich. He's rich. He's rich. He's rich. He's rich. Like, a lot of people give the Bible a bad rep about talking about money and possessions. But honestly, there's quite a few people in the Bible that are rich, including King Hezekiah that we talked about last week. And Job is another faithful man of God who is also rich, because money back then was like in animals. It was in how many servants you had. And he was a man that had a lot of animals and a lot of servants. He had 7,000 sheep. He had 3,000 camels, 1,000 cattle, 500 donkeys, and it says a large number of servants. And this is in chapter 1, verse 3. But a lot of those scriptures that talk about money are talking about the love of money and like having it be your God. Money shouldn't be your God, and it shouldn't be something that you serve. However, there's many, many rich people in the Bible that were considered to be integral. In fact, Job was the most integral person alive at this time, because Jacob had died, Joseph from Egypt had died. So now Job in verse 5, like the type of man that he was he would give a sacrifice just in case. Like, because sacrifices back in the Bible times were like, for like if someone sinned, then you would give a sacrifice, right? But Job was the type of man that he would give a sacrifice just in case. Just in case. Like that's how deep his faith was. That's how deep his respect for God was. That here in verse 1, chapter 1, verse 5, it said that every morning he would offer a burnt sacrifice for each of his kids. He said that just maybe one of my sons has sinned, just maybe, and has cursed God in their heart. And it said that this is what he would always do. So one, he wasn't offering a sacrifice for himself. He was offering it for his kids, like just in case his kids had done something in their heart that was wrong, or in their mind that was wrong, of cursing God. And so I think that that's like shows just how deep his faith was, just how great his relationship with God was, right? And then in verse 6 in chapter 1, it talks about how Satan comes to heaven, and he comes before the true God, and he says that God says to him, "Where did you come from?" And then Satan's like, I just been walking around the earth, like just chilling, you know what I mean? And then this is like the India rendition of it, right? But then God says to Satan, "Have you taken note of my servant Job? That there is there is no one like my servant Job in all the earth, that he is an upright man of integrity, fearing God and shunning what is bad." And then Satan's like, well, in verse 9 in chapter 1, "Is it for nothing that Job has feared the true God? Have you not put up this protective hedge around him and his house and everything he has? You've blessed his work and his hands, his livestock, and has spread out the land. But for a change," here's Satan challenging God, "but for a change, stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your very face." And then God says, look, like listen, listen, all right? "Everything he has is in your hand. Only do not lay your hand on the man himself." So Satan went out from the presence of the true God, and that's exactly what he did. Now, what's crazy is that like Job, he didn't just have like one test happen and then like some time span happen. Like literally, Satan was out to get him. Like like seeking like a roaring lion, like the Bible says in another verse, like a roaring lion seeking to devour him. And it says that, first of all, in verse 14 of chapter 1 in Job, it says that first all his cattle died, and we had already said he had 1,000 cattle. Then the next trial that comes immediately after, and we know that it was immediately after because the messenger that came to tell him that there was an issue was like in verse 15, that they killed all of your servants and all of your cattle, which he had 1,000 cattle, with a sword, and said, "I am the only one who came to escape and tell you." And then it says, while he was still speaking, while that messenger and servant was still speaking, there was yet another servant came and told him, "Fire from God came." And I'm going to circle back to that, and basically killed all your sheep, which he had 7,000 sheep. And all the servants were consumed. All your servants, like all your maids, basically, was consumed. And I'm the only one who came to escape. And then I'm circling back to in verse 16, where it says that fire from the heavens, fire from God fell from the heavens. So what's crazy is that like, who's really the one behind this test? It's Satan, right? But this servant comes and says that it was fire from God from the heavens. So this is like the perfect illustration behind the fact that so many times when we have trials in life, people try to say that it's God, like it's a test from God. But just like here in verse 16, the servant says that it was fire from God. And we know from this other verse, this was really Satan this whole time. So just something to kind of think about in your own journey. whether it be in fitness or nutrition or your daily life or at work or your relationships, whenever there's trials, to know the source of things, the true source of things, even if it appears to be like it's coming from the heavens or if it's coming from God, but to ground yourself in your faith and ground yourself in your beliefs and stay grounded in those beliefs. And then in verse 17, it says that all the camels died and all the servants that were tending to the camels died. And he, again, going back to earlier, it said that he had 3,000 camels. So listen, he's had 7,000 sheep die, 3,000 camels die, 1,000 cattle die. And then next, this is where it gets crazy. Is next, this is where I would have broken. It says in verse 18, while he was still speaking, yet another one of his servants came and said, your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And suddenly a great wind came from the wilderness, and it struck the four corners of the house, so that it fell on the young people, and they were killed. And I am the only one who came to escape to tell you. Crazy. Can you imagine having 10 children, and back then having that many children was viewed as a blessing, and having all 10 of your kids die? Like, many of us don't even have 10 kids nowadays. Many of us may have like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 children, but having all 10 of your kids die after you just lost all your financial wealth, because back then, again, animals were the finances of the household. Having servants or maids, butlers, whatever you want to call them in modern language, was viewed as your financial wealth. So he just literally lost all his money, all his servants, maids, butlers, whatever. And then now all 10 of his kids died. And this is like back to back to back. And it's not done yet. It ain't done. It ain't over. The trial, the test ain't over. Okay. So then in verse 20, like I said, this is what would have broke me. This is literally where he starts to break, okay? So in verse 20, it says, at that, Job got up and he ripped his garments and he cut his hair off. And then he fell down to the ground and bowed down and said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I will return. Yahweh has given and he has taken away. Let the name of the true God continue to be praised. So, and then it says, in all this, Job did not accuse God of doing anything wrong. Because the thing is that even though Satan was the one behind all these tests, God was the one who allowed Satan to test Job. So, but he never like cursed God. He never said like, God, why me? Or God, why are you doing this to me? He was basically saying that if God can give me all these blessings, then I'm going to allow him to take it away. Okay. So just another like key thing that, you know, we can like take from this is when we are going through trials, be it fitness, be it nutrition, be it on the job, be it relationships, anything day-to-day life, that again, assigning the proper source once again, and then also not blaming God for our problems. But then let's see. So then, because Job didn't curse God to his very face, just like Satan said that he would, then Satan goes back up to heaven. And in chapter 2, verse 3, God says to Satan, have you taken note of my servant Job, that there is no one like him on the earth? He is upright man of integrity, fearing God and shunning what is bad. He is holding firm still to his integrity, even though you tried to incite him against me to destroy, for me to destroy him for no reason. So what you kind of learn here is that Satan is so slick, he's so sly that he tries to actually convince God that we're not good people, that we're not integral, and will say like you should just kill him off because like he's only serving you because of all the good blessings that you give. So you take all that stuff away, I promise you he'll curse you to your very face. And this person doesn't really love you like you think they do. That's basically Satan's whole thing this whole time. Like even with Adam and Eve, right? Like it was basically like them people don't really love you like you think, like they're going to disobey you, and they did. So it's the same type of trial with Job. Like if you take everything away from him, he doesn't really love you like you think. So then Satan's like, well, yeah, I did try all that stuff, and yeah, he was still faithful, but he says in verse 4 of chapter 2, skin for skin, a man will give everything he has for his life. But for a change, stretch out your hand and strike his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your very face. And what's crazy is, if you notice here, Satan, he's like trying to get God to do the bad, right? But um, God never actually is the one like that decides to do the bad. Because I think it's Job 2, or not Job, excuse me, James 2:17, I think it is, where it says, one second, I will find it really, really quick. It's James chapter 1, verse 13 and 14 that says, when under trial, let no one say, I am being tried by God, for with evil things God cannot be tried, nor does he himself try anyone. But each one is tried by being drawn out and enticed by his own desire. Okay, so in James 1, 13 and 14, we learn that God never tries anybody. He never puts anyone under trial, right? And the same thing here with Job's situation. God never did anything harmful to Job. He allowed Satan to try to prove his point, but it doesn't end up working ultimately. So then God allows him to say, and it says in verse 6, verse 2, it says, God said to Satan, look, he is in your hand. And it has exclamation points. So I imagine like this is like a heated conversation, right? Look, he is in your hand. Only do not take his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the true God and struck Job with very painful boils from his sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And Job took a piece of broken pottery, basically like a piece of glass, so that he could scrape himself while he was just sitting there in the ashes. He was broke because all his money was basically taken away and all his animals, right? So he was broke. All of his servants were taken away. All his animals were taken away. All his kids were dead. All 10 of his kids were dead. And then now he's got these painful, nasty boils that the only way he can find relief is scraping himself with a piece of broken glass. Is this even real life? So then, like, his wife is fed up at this point. In verse 2, verse 9, it says, are you still holding firm to your integrity? This is what his wife says to him. You still holding firm? You still faithful to God? Why? Basically is what she says. She says, curse God and die. And then Job does the husbandly, manly thing in this situation, and he corrects her and says, you're talking like one of the senseless women. Should we only accept what is good from the true God and not accept also what is bad? And then it says, on all of this, Job did not sin with his lips. So this next part would be the icing on the cake that would have made me go crazy. In chapter 2, verse 11, it said that he had 3 companions come, and each one took their own place amongst him. And Basically, they sat with him for 7 days and for 7 nights, and no one said a word to him because they saw that he was in very great pain. So he has three companions that come to basically give him comfort and everything. But in chapter 6, verse 1 through 4, like the stuff that they start saying to him after they break the 7 day silence wasn't like the best. It wasn't like the most comforting stuff. You know what I mean? Because like they were basically saying that there must be something that you did to deserve this, and there literally wasn't anything that he had done to deserve this at all. So then like Job starts like kind of talking like crazy a little bit, and like has like this wild talk, so to speak. In chapter 6, verse 1 through 4, it says, Job then said in reply, "If only my anguish could be fully weighed and put on scales together with all my calamity. For now it is heavier than the sands of the seas. This is why my words have been wild talk." Have you ever been through something like so hard, so bad that like you just want to like go off? You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to keep it together, so you just want to go off. That's basically kind of like Job. He was saying that he's had having wild talk because he's going through a lot. He has every right. He has every right to, you know, be able to express himself. Like who in the world would be able to bottle all that in, right? And then it says in verse 4, "For the arrows of the Almighty have pierced me, and the spirit and my spirit is drinking their venom. The terrors from God are lined up against me." So in all this, again, he still never assigns anything bad to God. He never attributes anything bad to God. Because the thing is that there's a difference between God allowing us to go through trials and God causing our trials. Those are two different things, because the cause can often be like Satan, our own imperfections. It could be like just uneventful like circumstances that just happen because we're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So sometimes God can allow us to go through those things, but that's very, very different from it actually being the cause. Because again, the cause can be imperfection. It could be at the wrong place at the wrong time, just literally imperfect circumstances, or it could be Satan. So you can see that Job went through all of this. How many of you would be able to withstand losing 10 of your kids, all of your wealth, all of your servants, and your health? All like boom, 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 back to back to back. I don't think many of us would, just being honest. Like I would have lost it at losing my kids and then having these fake people in my face. They're supposed to be my friends. And they weren't comforting him. So then at the very end, because you're like, when does this get better? Like, because you've been talking about his calamities this whole time. It does get better, I promise. So at the very end of the book of Job, verse 42, it said that after 42:10, it says, "After Job had prayed for his companions, then the true God removed Job's tribulation and restored his prosperity. Yahweh gave him double, double, double what he had before. And all his brothers and sisters and all his former friends came to him and ate a meal with him in his house." And then it says that they sympathized with him and they comforted him over all the calamity that God had allowed to come upon him. Each of them gave him a piece of money and a gold ring. So what's so crazy, right, is like, during his trial, these friends weren't like all that comforting. But then after the trial, then they're like, "Oh yeah, Job, you went through a lot, didn't you?" And then they gave him like gifts. They came to eat with him. They came to sympathize with him. So, sometimes like people will come around later on, like afterwards, Because again, at first they were like, oh, maybe you must have done something wrong to deserve all of this. But then once he got back double, then that's when they were, coming around and stuff, which even the Bible talks about. And like, I think either Proverbs or Ecclesiastes, that it says that the friends of the rich are many, but the poor or homeless have zero friends. And isn't that so true? Like, people that are rich have friends, right? People that are homeless, no one's there for them. People that are poor, no one's there for them. People that are sick, no one's there for them. That's just imperfect human reality. Um, but if you notice there in 42, verse 10, it said that Job had to pray for his companions. And it was only after he prayed for his companions that the true God removed his tribulation. So I think that this means that a lot of times we have to kind of like forgive people when they say crazy stuff to us. Like, even if they said crazy stuff to us in a time that we didn't deserve it, um, is the lesson here. And then there in verse 12 of chapter 42 in Job, it says, so then Yahweh blessed the last part of Job's life more than the beginning. More than the beginning. And remember, it said that he got double back. So what was his double? It says that Job came to have 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 pair of cattle, and 1,000 female donkeys. So literally double. He literally got double the money. So you imagine he was already rich. So let's just say he was a millionaire. We don't know what. Well, I don't know. I didn't do the research, because oftentimes you can do the research to figure out like what the equivalent would have been to today's value. However, I didn't do that. But let's just say that he was a millionaire back in Bible times. So this means that God gave him not only what he had before and restored his millionaire status, so to speak, but also gave him double what he had before. And then, like, what about his kids? Because remember, he lost 10 children. Not one, not two, not three, but 10 kids. Okay. So then in 42, verse 13, it says that God gave him 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. And the daughters that he got, I find this interesting that the Bible puts emphasis on the daughters, because oftentimes the Bible gets a bad rep for not speaking about women and giving women their place of high regard and honor. But that's not the case here. It says that the women, it says that the daughters, there was no women in all the land that were as beautiful as Job's daughter. And their father Job gave them an inheritance along with their brothers. Okay. So it's like, when Job passed away, it wasn't just the men in the family that got an inheritance. It was also the daughters. There was literally no other women in the whole entire land that were as gorgeous as them. Like, that's crazy. It doesn't say nothing about the sons. And it even tells the names of the daughters. It says that their names were Jemima, Keziah, and Karen Hapuch. I don't know how to pronounce them, but it doesn't say the sons' names. So that's very interesting to note. And then in 16 and 17, it says, after this, Job lived 140 years, and he saw his children and his grandchildren 4 generations. And then finally, he died after living a long and satisfying life. So I don't know personally how long the trial had lasted for Job, of just like back to back to back. You talk about getting punched in the face, punched in the stomach by life. Job, he had it for real. He had it for real, for real. Um, so the story is about courage. It's about resilience versus quitting and giving up. Because I feel like, you know, like, how can you apply this in your day-to-day life? So a few things again is like recognizing where the test comes from, recognizing that God may temporarily allow us to go through things, but that doesn't mean he's the cause. It means also like Job stayed strong. He was still like kind but corrective to his wife. He was still kind but corrective to his friends. Like he was just like a real one the whole time. He never cursed God. He never assigned anything bad to God. Like he was faithful. He was integral for sure. Um, and so I think that when it comes to us, whenever we're going through a trial, wherever we're going through a tribulation, and we might feel alone, because I'm sure he felt alone, like your own spouse told you to curse God and die. Your own spouse, like you'll vow for better or for worse, for life or death, you'll ride or die. Then told you to just go ahead and die, just curse God and die. Like I feel like, you know, whenever we're alone, like and going through a lot, then we can definitely take some notes from the book of Job on just like keeping on, being resilient, and know that the storm is not going to last forever. Which, ooh, I forgot to even bring up that part of Job. In the beginning, there was a storm that had brought one of his trials. And I thought that that was like a great illustration. Shoot, I thought I circled it. Because we talked about the fire from the heavens and it like appearing like it was from God. But then also, let's see if I can find it real quick. Let's see, in 18 it says, chapter 1 verse 18, while he was still yet speaking, yet another one came down. Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. Suddenly a great wind came from the wilderness and struck the four corners of the house. Da, 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 da. Oh, I thought I circled it. Da, da, da. The Sabaeans came and took. Oh, I'm determined. I am determined to find where it talks about a storm. Oh man, literally there's a verse where it talks about a storm came and took away either his kids or his animals. And I thought that that was like a really good illustration or like metaphor that you could use for like when life storms come and they take away something from you that you previously had, and it feels real crappy situation to be in. That, you know, the thing about storms is that they don't last forever. And like if you think about Noah, for instance, and the story of the flood and flooding the whole entire earth to kill literally everything, you know, God's promise about storms was that there would never be a storm that was last long enough to kill everything on the earth. So we still have storms, we still have floods, yeah. But God's promise was that we would never have a storm that lasted long enough that it would kill everything. And that's what the rainbow is. The rainbow is a symbol of that promise, okay? So it's kind of like that. Like a storm doesn't last forever. And God's promise is that a storm would never last forever, that it would kill you or everything else. So it's kind of like, you know, on the other side of the rainbow, you know, there's that promise that God will restore what we had before, if not double. So I think that that's pretty cool to just kind of like keep hope, keep faith. If you're going through something hard right now, to keep on keeping on, keep on pushing on. Last week, I was kind of able to relate, like how does this relate to our fitness and nutrition journey? But this week is kind of like more about just like real life, you know what I mean? And I know that so many people like are in my DMs and they're like, oh, um, my parents passed, or, this happened or that happened. I got sick or a family member got sick, and I just stress eat and I emotional eat. And then, I felt like I was not, or COVID happened and I gained weight. And so a lot of times, like I hear in my DMs that like life happened and then it caused stress eating, emotional eating, and then it caused overeating, and then it caused weight gain. And then you've had that 30 to 100 pounds off on ever since. So I think that, if you are able to build up courage and resilience, that's like Job's, then it could be a lot better for you to go through those trials without feeling like you have to like eat your feelings, knowing that the storm's not going to last forever. Okay. So hope this helps. I am not a minister. I am not a pastor, right? I am a health coach. So I just do these on Sundays because honestly, like it's hard to make changes if you only try to attack it from a nutrition and fitness only standpoint, um, and not like mindset and not like spirituality. Because I've had clients tell me that they feel like something's missing. They feel like a spiritual sense of them is missing. They feel like, that part of them is missing. Or like they'll say like, I used to have spirituality in my life and I really miss that. So that's what kind of inspired these lives. So if you enjoyed and you want to see more, then let me know. If you got some really good takeaways, then make sure that you drop a heart down in the comments below. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. Let's see, Marcia, amen and amen. Still a good word to relate to it and having and setting goals. Absolutely, yes. So there's like a way that you can apply it. Like if you take that information in and into your heart and into your minds, then you know personally, because I don't know what trials and tribulations you go through, but you know what trials and tribulations you go through, so you can apply it to yourself, apply it to your own situation, and but behavior science basically shows that, just listening to something, we don't always remember it. So if we create a visual for ourselves, just typing out your biggest takeaway, you're more likely to actually remember it. And if you have sat here 40 minutes with me, you might as well drop your takeaway down in the comments below. I'm just saying. And so if you want to know more about what I do, as far as like my thick fit secrets on how you can lose 20 pounds in 60 days without having to cut carbs or count carbs, then let me know. My computer is actually about to die. So as always, remember that it is faith, consistency, and hard work that get you to your goals. However, faith without works is dead. Dead. So you have to put in the hard work. And I will see you guys another day. Have a good evening. Coach Indy signing out. Bye.